And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday morning, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 282 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, before I get on to the introduction, long story short, unfortunately my intro did not record, but it is all good as we got a lot of volleyball to discuss. We've got a new pro women's volleyball league that's going to be coming. We've got a lot of NCAA men's volleyball to recap. We have a lot of pro volleyball to recap and to preview as well. So that's on the docket today. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, for how long it's still going to be there, and Facebook. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would definitely appreciate it. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers by the time either the end of this month rolls around or by the Super Bowl comes. Either way, with your help, we can definitely make it happen. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop where you can cop t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies for the winter, and much more. Also, check out our Hall of Fame, as yours truly was inducted into the Hall of Fame 5 years ago, or around that time, roughly 5 years ago. And check out everything else on our website as well. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Seal the Deal Black Seals, and Vital Apparel, as well as our new sponsor being Raw Nutrition Supplements. Definitely get it while you can. And if you use the code IESR, you'll get 10% off. So we definitely appreciate them being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio. Let's talk to them, and let's have them talk to you about what they're all about, as well as what our station is all about. Let's do this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors, especially our new sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. We definitely appreciate them for helping keep the lights on here at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all this sports. Make sure to follow SetPoint on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, and on Instagram, at set_point.isr. I have a lot of interviews from this past weekend, so definitely check those out. And you can follow me personally on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez 1. All right, let's get on into the volleyball action. So a lot to go over in terms of this past week. So the First Point Collegiate Challenge, we just got to adjust this right now. It was amazing. It was fantastic. It did not disappoint. So all in all, for the First Point Collegiate Challenge, it was a brilliant success. I enjoyed it. So we got to recap every match one by one. So we got to start off with Penn State versus UCLA. So this one was pretty obvious. It was also nationally televised on ESPNU. So good job to ESPN for giving that match the green light. I think it was perfect. And for those that unfortunately can't tell, unfortunately I did get a little sick when it came to being in Austin, but that is okay. This whole thing blew up pretty much on Sunday, but it's all good. I'm on the mend, trying to get 100% better, so there's that. Anyway, so UCLA, Penn State, long story short, UCLA just had their way over Penn State. This kind of showed that Penn State was indeed a young team, but it also showed that UCLA is just as dangerous. And yes, they don't have any more Ethan Champlins on their team, but honestly, I think I just think that UCLA is it still is pretty darn good as advertised. And they only had one match going into this, while Penn State had two matches. The first set, UCLA just dominated. They just steamrolled their way. I mean, Zach Rama was just a beast, as well as Cameron Thorne and Cooper Robinson. Second set was pretty much more of the same. I mean, Penn State kind of tried to find their groove, but it was just more so UCLA just looking like their strong selves. Now, Penn State did have a chance to force a fourth set. They led 23-22, but UCLA rattled off 3 straight points to eventually take the match, which I thought was pretty obvious that UCLA was going to win, though Penn State did put a little bit of scare into them. Zach Rama led the way for UCLA with 9 kills. Cameron Thorne and Cooper Robinson both had 5 kills. Thorne was named the player of the match. Penn State was led by Will Coons, who had 8 kills. Penn State hit 0 for the match, while UCLA hit 302, which was not bad in my opinion. Both teams had a lot of missed serves, but what else is new? All right, so there was that matchup right there. Next matchup we had was Ohio State versus Stanford, which was kind of the battle of the 2 teams that were a little on the rebuilding side. Stanford swept their way through this match. They kind of had a little bit of a rough patch to start set number 3, but then Stanford just started to pick up the pieces, and they collected themselves, and they looked pretty good. I think their win over Ball State proves that they are no pushover. Stanford was led by Moses Wagner, or Mo Swag, who had 13 kills. Nate Clinton added 8 kills. Ohio State hit 246 while holding Ohio State into the negative 81 hitting percentage. So yeah, Stanford hit 246. Ohio State hit in the negatives. Ohio State was led by Shane Wetzel and Stanislaw Chichinski, both having 4 kills. But yeah, it was just an ugly match for Ohio State. This just goes to show how young they really are. I know they didn't miss too many serves, but they didn't have too many aces either. Stanford, on the other hand, they had 11 service aces, 4 of which came from Teo Snui, 3 came from Theron Brulette, and 2 also came from Moses Wagner. So there you have it right there for Stanford, Ohio State. It was just strong and dominant for the most part for Stanford in that match. Now for day 2, we had Stanford taking on Penn State. Penn State inched their way to winning the first set 25-23. Matt Luoma had himself a solid game, in my opinion. I thought this was kind of his legacy game. Now, the second set, Penn State was up 13-5. It looked like Stanford was kind of going to have a little bit of a setback. But Stanford just clawed their way back, and this, I think, was the turning point. Michael Schwob, unfortunately, hurt his ankle, and then he had to come out. Josh Rosenblum came back in, and he was serviceable. I will say Josh Rosenblum, for those that don't know, he redshirted at Long Beach State, transferred to Penn State. I think he gray-shirted. If not, he was unable to play his freshman year. He finally got his chance to play, and he was serviceable. But to Penn State's dismay, their 8-point lead was unable to be held as Stanford took the second set 30-28 off of a service ace from, I think it was Ryan Duras. Regardless, Stanford was still their strong serving selves, even though both teams missed 31 serves. Then the third set and fourth set, it was pretty much all Stanford. They wound up taking the third and fourth set 25-20 and 25-19. Teo Snui led the way with 15 kills. Moses Wagner added 9 kills. Ryan Duras, he was underrated in my opinion. Everyone talks about Teo Snui and Moses Wagner, but Duras, I thought, had himself a legacy game. He had 2 aces, 8 kills, 7 digs. Evan Porter was also flying around the court. He was making some great hustle plays. So in my opinion, I thought Stanford just had themselves an amazing weekend. And for being such a young team, Stanford is looking pretty strong to start. Penn State was led by Will Coons and Matt Luoma, both having 10 kills. Owen Rose also chipped in 7 kills. Owen Rose actually did start in this match as opposed to the UCLA match, but I don't know what the thought process of that was, but it is what it is. And then to the Ohio State-UCLA match. So Ohio State-UCLA, this one I thought was going to be more so of UCLA being dominant and strong, but for Ohio State, they showed a lot of scrappiness and resilience, but UCLA just looked like, they did not look like the reigning champions. They didn't look like the number 1 team in the nation. They had a lot of hitting errors. They just made a bunch of mistakes. They allowed their opponent to hit over 300. First set was just all Ohio State winning 25-20. Then the second set was pretty much the same, except UCLA kind of did claw their way back. They took the lead at 24-23, but Ohio State rattled off 3 straight points to take that second set. Third set was all UCLA. They dominated, won 25-13. But Ohio State jumped out to a 10-2 lead, and they weren't letting go of this lead by any means, as they eventually took the fourth set 25-17, eventually knocking off number 1 UCLA for a second straight year, which I thought was pretty darn impressive if you ask me. So good job to Ohio State. That's another young team that I definitely think isn't indicative of their record or isn't indicative of some of their losses. They have a good team. It's just all a matter of time and learning. As Shane Wetzel led the way with 10 kills, Stanislaw Chichinski added 9 kills, Kyle Toon and Cole Young both had 7 kills. Daniel Henwood Rodriguez had 32 assists to go along with 4 kills and 6 digs. Ohio State only missed 15 serves, which can't be said for UCLA. They missed 27, even though they were serving tough. Ohio State also had 7 service aces, 3 of which coming from Wetzel. Their libero was also pretty solid as well. And again, this is a young Ohio State team. I thought this Ohio State team was flying under the radar. I thought their first match against Stanford, it was just more so Stanford serving them off the floor. I thought with this match against UCLA, I thought Ohio State they had their way from the get-go, and they were not letting go of the momentum. Now, UCLA was led by Zach Rama, who had 21 kills, who I thought was pretty darn good all weekend. Cooper Robinson added 11 kills. Ido David added 6 kills. Cam Thorne added 4 kills. It just wasn't enough, as even though UCLA did outblock Ohio State, they just could not battle their way out of it. And the crazy thing is that UCLA out-hit Ohio State 352 to 230 and still lost. That's wild if you ask me. So, again, I think UCLA will be fine. I just think that for UCLA's sake, they just can't have any more of these clunker games, especially since they do have another big test going on this week. They've got UC San Diego, who is vastly flying under the radar, and that's actually a perfect segue to go into the recap of the rest of the NCAA men's volleyball week 3. So UC San Diego swept George Mason at home. So everyone is saying UC San Diego deserves to be ranked higher. UC San Diego deserves to be ranked higher. I agree. It's just that I would like to see them actually beat a team that is definitely worth noting. Like if they can beat UCLA this weekend or this week, then I will definitely respect it. I respect Brad Rostratter and what he's done for UC San Diego, but I will also just say I want to see them beat like a top 10 team. They definitely got respect from the poll this week, but I digress in that regard. Then Lewis took down Roosevelt on Tuesday. No surprise there. Wednesday, we had Long Beach State sweeping Lindenwood, but Lindenwood gave Long Beach State all that they could handle. Even though Lindenwood got swept, those 3 set scores were closer than everyone expected. So don't think for a moment that Long Beach State cruised to victory just because they swept them. It was a dog fight, or in this case, a lion fight or a cat fight. I digress. Fairleigh Dickinson got handed Barry their first loss of the season. They got their first win of the season as well after seeing a bunch of delays due to the fires. Like Fairleigh Dickinson was supposed to fly out to California to play UCLA, Long Beach State, and Pepperdine, but unfortunately it was a no-go for them. Belmont Abbey got their first win of the season as they took down Catawba in 4 sets. Then we jumped to closing off Wednesday, we had Hawaii taking down Princeton in 4 sets. And then we jumped to Thursday. BYU reverse swept Ball State on the road. Oh my goodness. This was such a big win for the Cougars. Keone Tim continues to be him. And man, BYU is reaping the benefits of having him. Nothing against Hawaii, but BYU has unlocked Keone Tim's true potential. He is not just a serving specialist. He is an outside hitter, and he's a good outside hitter helping out Luke Benson. Then Long Beach State swept McKendree. That's no surprise there. Number 2, Long Beach State swept McKendree. And that's pretty much that in terms of the notable matches. Friday, we had, obviously, the First Point Collegiate Challenge matches. But we had BYU taking down Ball State again in 5 sets. This time, a reverse sweep was not needed, as BYU still fell behind 2-1. But then they wound up winning the next 2 sets, and they wound up winning the match, which I thought was impressive. We also had number 9 Grant Keene take down George Mason in straight sets. We also had UC San Diego taking down Lindenwood in 4 sets, which I thought was pretty good as well. You had Loyola Chicago sweeping away St. Francis for their first sweep of the season. CSUN took down Purdue Fort Wayne, pretty good. You had You had USC taking down to Uville. Expected, no offense to Uville. You had UC Santa Barbara sweeping Emmanuel. Concordia University Irvine took down Springfield in the matchup of National Collegiate versus NCAA Division III. Lewis took down Rockhurst in straight sets. And that is pretty much that for the notable matchups. Then we jump to Saturday, other than the first point. Oh, yeah, and also on Friday we had Hawaii sweeping Princeton. Now we jump to Saturday. We had Harvard taking down St. Thomas Aquinas. Pretty new program right there for St. Thomas Aquinas. Grand Canyon took down George Mason in 4 sets. Long Beach State, number 2 Long Beach State, took down number 12 Lewis in 4. This was a very interesting match. Long Beach State lost the first set 25-20. And it was a deuce set in set 2. But then Long Beach won that set. They reestablished themselves. Skylar Varga had himself a big game. Sotir Shapanis had himself a big match. Moni Nikolov has really played the center position well. Some are saying there's a little bit of turmoil with Moni Nikolov. I mean, as long as they're winning, I don't think it's too much to worry about. So, in my opinion, as long as Long Beach State is winning and Moni Nikolov is, it's probably just like freshman, like growing pains, if you ask me. So, if I were a volleyball fan, I would think nothing of it. Now, if this continues to develop, then maybe you got to be a little concerned for Long Beach State. But if anything, it's just freshman growing pains. Everyone goes through them, so let's slow your roll. Then we had CSUN defeating Lindenwood in 4 sets. Jalen Phillips had himself a monster game, career-high 27 kills. Loyola Chicago took down Rockhurst in 4 sets, which I thought was pretty good. USC took down Emmanuel in straight sets. And that is pretty much that in terms of the notable matchups from this past week. So don't want to go over too many of the matchups because we got a lot of volleyball to cover. So now we got the AVCA Men's Volleyball Coaches Poll. So I actually was told that this was supposed to be released tomorrow, but I guess the AVCA said, let's just put it out there right now. So there's a new number 1. You got Long Beach State as the new number 1. UCLA tumbled down to number 3. The crazy thing is that BYU still stayed put at 5, but they got a first place vote. Probably because of quality wins. They have 2 wins over Ohio State, which just beat UCLA, and then they have 2 wins over Ball State, which just beat Stanford, which had himself a 2-0 week. And BYU is undefeated, but they get a big test this week as they get a top 3 team this week on the road. But I digress in that regard. Anyway, Stanford moved up to the top 10. That's another notable right there. I thought their week was pretty darn good, if you ask me, beating Ohio State and Penn State. Pepperdine moved out of the top 10. They still have to kind of beat somebody. They get a big test this weekend against the number 1 team in the nation. Ohio State moved up 1. UC San Diego had the biggest leap. They moved up 3 spots of all the teams. And that is pretty much that. Penn State had the biggest drop. They moved from 14 to 17. So that is pretty much that for the AVCA Men's Volleyball Coaches Poll. Now let's go over the off-the-block media men's volleyball poll. So this was last week's poll. This isn't released today, but this was last week's poll. We had UCLA, Long Beach State, UC Irvine, Hawaii, BYU, Ball State, USC, Grand Canyon, and then Loyola, and then Lewis and Pepperdine tied for 10th. What I kind of wonder is this. Why is Lewis getting spited for sweeping Penn State, whereas Loyola wound up beating Penn State? Maybe it's because Lewis took them on second as opposed to not getting a fresher Penn State team. Just food for thought right there. And here's who I voted for in the off-the-block ballot from last week, in case you missed it. UCLA, Long Beach State, UC Irvine, Hawaii, BYU. I put USC at 6 just because I thought Ball State losing to Stanford was a little unacceptable, but now can be a little bit justified. I put Ball State at 7, GCU at 8, Lewis at 9, and Loyola at 10, just because I thought Lewis sweeping Penn State was more impressive than Loyola beating them on the first night. So, yeah, that right there. And then here's who I voted for in this week's Off the Block poll, media poll. I put Long Beach State at number 1. UC Irvine at 2. BYU I put at 3 just because I think they're deserving of it because of their strength of schedule and quality wins. I was going to put them at 2, but then I want to see what BYU can do this week. UCLA I put at 4. I thought them losing to Ohio State was unacceptable in my opinion. It's like, come on. You're the reigning national champions. You handled Penn State. You were at full strength for the most part. You should have won that one. Not that you're the reigning national champions, but this seems to happen quite a bit for UCLA, aka last year. They lost to Ohio State last year, and then they wound up turning it around, having some struggles here and there, but they still look pretty solid. I put Hawaii at 5. I should switch Ball State and USC just because I think USC still has to kind of beat somebody significant, but I think USC should be at 6, in my opinion. I think I might have messed up in terms of putting the banners, but I put USC at 6 and Ball State at 7. GCU is at 8. They still have to kind of beat somebody significant. Loyola is at 9, and I put Ohio State at 10 just because beating the number 1 team deserves some sort of reward. Will they become ranked according to all the media poll voters? That still remains to be seen, but we shall see. But all in all, that's who I voted for. I vote for this every week in terms of the Off the Block. Big shout out to Vinny Lopes and all that he does for NCAA men's volleyball. Definitely go check it out. You won't be disappointed. And I, as well as several other voters, vote for the Off the Block media poll. So there you have it. All right, but that is that for the Off the Block poll and all the other polls. So now let's preview week 4 of the NCAA men's volleyball season. So kind of off today with Emmanuel playing Pepperdine and Quincy beating Lees McRae in straight sets. The fun notable matches won't be starting until Wednesday, where USC heads down to Northridge to take on CSUN. That's going to be a fun one right there. CSUN has Jalen Phillips, and they've got that freshman middle who is just a stud. Now, can they take down a USC team that has a lot of talent, Like, USC is not going to be getting a layup when it comes to this one. I think CSUN, remember, they beat them last year. Now, I want to see USC actually beat CSUN this year. And on the road, mind you, because USC has had kind of the benefit of playing its first 4 matches at USC. Now we'll see if they can beat a team on the road. And then we got the match of the week. Number 5 BYU heads down to Irvine to take on number 2 UC Irvine. Something's got to give with this one. UC Irvine hasn't beaten anyone significant. This is their chance to prove themselves. BYU, they've beaten a lot of significant opponents. Let's see if they can take down a talented UC Irvine team because that UC Irvine team is good. Hilir Heno, he is now the all-time service ace leader at UC Irvine. We've got Max Grigoriev and so on and so forth. Then we jump to Thursday. We have number 14 UC San Diego at number 3 UCLA. I want to see it. I want to see if UC San Diego can take down UCLA. I think that they can, but UCLA is a whole different beast. And this is UCLA's first official home match. Remember, they didn't get a home match when they played St. Francis because of all the fires. Now they will get a official home match at Pauley Pavilion. Also on Thursday, we have Ohio State heading down to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. This is the battle of the Big Ten teams, part 1. Notice how I said part 1. Part 2 is next week. But Ohio State, Penn State, that's going to be a little bit of a banger right there. Penn State knows that they need to get on the board in terms of wins and losses. Ohio State, they know they can't get too high on this win over UCLA because remember what happened last year? They wound up beating number 1 UCLA, only to tumble down and lose to Penn State. So Penn State, they don't have much to lose, while Ohio State, they got to keep their momentum going. Then on Friday, in terms of notable matches, we have UC Santa Barbara taking on Grand Canyon. Look, this one I don't think will be a layup for Grand Canyon. I think UC Santa Barbara is good by by all means, with all due respect to them. I just think that Grand Canyon, even though they lost a good portion of their roster, they should be fine. But don't think for a moment that, like, Santa Barbara's got talent and height. That's the big thing right there for the Gauchos. That's what they got going for them. Grand Canyon, they've got athleticism. They've got some studs that can really crush the ball. My big thing is for Grand Canyon, if they think they're getting a layup with this matchup, they're sadly mistaken, especially since they're on the road. Since they're at home in Santa Barbara, they have a lot to prove themselves. This is their first ranked match of the season. Also on Friday, you got UCLA at CSUN. That's going to be a fun matchup. Number 5 BYU at number 2 UCLA, round 2. This one's a sneaky good matchup. Vanguard at UC San Diego. So Vanguard was the program that Brad Rostratter used to coach at. And I think that's going to be a unique matchup. And it's going to be Vanguard's true first test, in my opinion. And that is pretty much that in terms of all of the notable matchups right there. I mean, I just threw in Vanguard UC San Diego as a sneaky good matchup. But Vanguard is in its first year as a Division 1-2 men's volleyball program. So let's see how they do against a very talented UC San Diego team. Then we jump to Saturday. We have a few notable. Oh, yeah, we have round 2 between UC Santa Barbara and Grand Canyon. Again, I really want to see what Grand Canyon can do. I mean, if they think they're getting an easy one with the Gauchos, they're dead wrong. And that's pretty much that for the notable matches on Saturday. Just a few outlier matches right here and there, a ranked versus unranked matchup here and there. Then Sunday, we have Penn State at Ohio State. Again, big series for Penn State because, honestly, I think they do have the talent. It's just all about just learning on the fly because they lost a lot to their senior class. And it doesn't get easier from Penn State and Ohio State because next week they play UCLA and USC at Ohio State. So we'll see what Penn State can do and we'll see what Ohio State can do, but that's a pretty notable matchup right there. And then closing off the week of NCAA men's volleyball in week 4, we have Long Beach State at Pepperdine. All right, this is where Long Beach State gets another big test right here. They get a Pepperdine team, which I think definitely has a lot of upside in my opinion. This Pepperdine team is not that bad as most people give them credit for, or not give them credit for, just because I think Pepperdine is a little under the radar. I mean, they're 11th and they were in the top 10, but can we really see what they're truly made of? And their freshman, Cole Hartke, broke the Pepperdine record for highest hitting percentage in a single match as he had 11 kills in yesterday's win over to Uville, and he hit 917. Yes, he had 11 kills on 12 swings for a hitting percentage of 917, which I thought was pretty darn awesome if you ask me. So again, Long Beach State, if they're thinking that they're going to get a layup with this matchup against Pepperdine, they're sadly mistaken. They know they got business to attend to just because when they played Lewis, I was fearing the worst. I was thinking that Long Beach State was going to be in for a letdown. But this is why you play these road games. This is why you play these hostile road games on the road, just because Pepperdine is a solid team. Lewis is a solid team. And Long Beach State needs all the solid teams that they can get for their resume for the NCAA men's volleyball tournament. Should it come down to them having to apply as an at-large. But we'll see what happens. It's too early to talk about the NCAA men's volleyball tournament or the National Collegiate tournament. So there you have it right there. That's the week 4 preview for this week. I think we're in for another great week of NCAA men's volleyball, and I hope you all are ready for this. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break, allow my voice to kind of get back to form. When we come back, we've got some pro volleyball news to discuss, and we got a little bit of some Pro Volleyball Federation to recap. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, Cleveland and Columbus sports fans. This is Jen B, host of the Show of the Land on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. If you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in live to the Show of the Land on Tuesdays, where we will cover the Cleveland Browns, Cavs, Guardians, and Monsters. We will also talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, Crew, Fury, and of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll also cover other colleges in the area like Akron, Kent State, Cleveland State, Mount Union, John Carroll, Baldwin Wallace, Youngstown State, among others. So like I said, if you love Cleveland and Columbus sports like I do, be sure to tune in Tuesdays to the Show of the Land with Jen B on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our amazing shows such as Palm Tree Sports with Corey Pujols and the Show of the Land with Jen B. She's going to have a lot to talk about with not only Ohio State football, but Ohio State men's volleyball, the Columbus Fury, and so much more. But let's get back into the action. So we have some breaking news in regards to professional women's volleyball. So there is a new league that has been unveiled. This was unveiled on Thursday. The MLV, the Major League Volleyball. Yeah, so I think this was like back in January, if not like back in like December or November. Most likely December, we got like word that a new volleyball league was going to, a fourth party volleyball league was about to be unveiled, which it's crazy if you ask me. So we still need the NBA to come back. I'm still waiting for that, but I digress. But yeah, the MLV, Major League Volleyball. So this was quite astounding if you ask me. And you know, I'm just going to say this right now. I have a tough time following the Pro Volleyball Federation and the LOVB because, along with NCAA men's volleyball, because there's just lots of volleyball going on. And you don't see professional men's leagues out there wanting to steal the spotlight from NCAA women's volleyball, do they? I digress. Anyway, but yeah, the MLV is a new thing. And the big crazy thing is that they actually snatched one of the Pro Volleyball Federation teams, as the Omaha Supernovas, after this season, they are leaving the Pro Volleyball Federation to go to the MLV. So, look, this is kind of interesting if you ask me. I mean, the Omaha Supernovas have had lots of success with the PVF. I mean, they obviously won the championship last year, the inaugural championship. But for them to just up and leave already, that's kind of head-scratching if you ask me. Something's not right here. Something either was said or something just was mind-boggled with, or something just rubbed the owner of the Supernovas, a.k.a. Jason Derulo, the wrong way. So, yeah, so that is quite fascinating if you ask me. And I wonder what's going to happen with the PVF if the Omaha Supernovas leave, because if they leave, oh, my boy, Cale Henderson, he says, kick-ass, Teran. Thank you. This is actually quite interesting because Cale is actually from the Omaha area, from what I think. But either way, he actually is the host of our Vegas show, Sin City Sports, which I'll be getting into a little bit. But yeah, this is quite interesting of how the Omaha Supernovas, who are pretty much the PVF's cash cow, who pretty much volleyball, let's be honest, in terms of like NCAA women's volleyball or women's volleyball in general, the PVF and NCAA women's volleyball is home to Omaha, Nebraska, and all things Nebraska. And I wonder what's going to happen with the PVF once the Omaha Supernovas leave. Will they expand to another team? Will they get another team from Omaha? Will they, or Nebraska in general? Like, if I'm going to say this, if the PVF loses out on the Omaha Supernovas, they better hope to God that the Indy Ignite better draw in some more revenue and whatnot and more fans, just because Indiana is the volleyball capital of the world, from what I've been told. But Omaha/Nebraska is probably the volleyball state. No debate. But yeah, that is pretty much that for my news. So here's my take on another new pro volleyball, women's volleyball league. So we've already got 4 leagues. I didn't know what the 4th one was. I knew we had PVF, Pro Volleyball Federation, LOVB, League One Volleyball, and now this whole MLV. But I also forgot Athletes Unlimited was a thing. So my apologies, Athletes Unlimited fans. I forgot. But yeah, we have 4 professional women's volleyball leagues. Meanwhile, for professional men's volleyball, there's only one, being the American AVL, the American Volleyball League, which I wonder if that's still going on or if it's in its off season. But I'd have to check with Rob St. Clair. But anyway, my thoughts on another new women's pro volleyball league. It's bad enough. Okay, I'm going to be honest. It's bad enough that I have to keep tabs of 2 leagues. Like, it was tough for me to keep tabs of NCAA men's volleyball and Pro Volleyball Federation last year. Now I have to keep track of Pro Volleyball Federation, NCAA men's volleyball, and LOVB. And now I've got a new league to keep tabs of in terms of the MLV, which that's just a lot to keep tabs on. And this is why my shows are practically long. This is why my shows are like 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I'm trying my best to try to keep it under 90 minutes. That is my big goal ever since I've switched to StreamYard. I cannot go past 90 minutes. And the crazy part is that this isn't the end of all my volleyball coverage. I still got junior college volleyball that I'll be covering. I've got high school volleyball that I'll be covering, most likely. But it all depends on what my situation is. But yeah, there's like a lot of volleyball for me to keep tabs on. And while that's not a bad thing, it just means that I'm probably going to have to shorten some of these segments just because I don't want this show to like go past 90 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes. So, and for all the casual volleyball fans, I mean, it's cool that there's like multiple leagues to keep tabs of, but there's just a lot of volleyball leagues to discuss and lots of volleyball like keep track of. And Haley Washington I think it was Haley Washington or Chiaka Agbagu. Regardless, it was one of those two. I think it was Washington. She said there's a new league that will be discussed in 2026. She made a big joke of it in terms of all the pro volleyball leagues being created and whatnot. This isn't freaking Madden where you can create like a team and whatnot or create a thing and whatnot. Or the XFL or the AFL or anything of that sort. But anyway, I just think that there should only be like 1, if not 2 leagues. So I think 3 is a little too many, and 4 is just straight up right out. So I think 2 leagues should be the best. Should be the thing for professional women's volleyball leagues. But what do I know? I'm not an owner. But this kind of begs the question for me: how many pro women's volleyball leagues is too many? Currently, like I mentioned, there's Athletes Unlimited, Pro Volleyball Federation, League One Volleyball, and then the new MLV, which will be coming next year. How many is like too many? That's my biggest question for you all. And what are your thoughts on the new MLV? Do you like the new MLV? Do you like cover? Do you like keeping track of lots of these leagues and lots of these players and where they're going to be going? Do you think there should just be one league? Just let me know either in the comment section and whatnot, and just let me know when it comes to that thing, and let me know your thoughts on the new MLV. But yeah, that's my little gist of and takeaway from the new Pro Volleyball Federation or the new Pro Women's Volleyball League. Speaking of Pro Volleyball Federation, we got to recap week 2. So week 2 started on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, with the Indy Ignite sweeping the Grand Rapids Rise. So, long story short, I would not have expected anything more. And this is no disrespect to the Grand Rapids Rise. Indy Ignite is just on a tear, my dudes. As Lekator Member had 17 kills. Ajani Keeler added 10 kills. Nina Kahik added 16 kills. Like, Indy was just on one. They were igniting everything and then some. They were scorching the earth or scorching the Terraflex. Meanwhile, for the Grand Rapids Rise, they only had one player in double digits in terms of kills, and that was Naya Shime, who had 12 kills. They only had one player in double digits in terms of digs, and that was August Rasky, which she also had 34 assists as well. But all in all, the Indy Ignite are showing why they're so good and why they actually have a lot of upside to their team. Where the Grand Rapids Rise, I've said this before and I'll say it again, this is a rebuild year for them. They managed to make it all the way to the championship last year. Now I think it's kind of going to be a little bit of a step back. Jumping over to Columbus, we had the Atlanta Vibe outlasting the Columbus Fury in a 5-set barn burner, with the 5th set being 16-14. This was a fun match right here, ladies and gentlemen. Merritt Beeson had 23 kills. Leah Edmond added 13 kills. You also had Pia Timmer with 11 kills. The Columbus Fury was led by Morgan Lewis, who had 19 kills. You had Kaylee Cox with 18 kills. And you also had Megan Courtney Lush with 12 kills. In terms of digs, Tori Stringer had 53 assists and 19 digs. You also had Lush with 18 digs. You also had Paula Kriame with 15 digs. And then for the Vibe, you had 27 digs coming from Morgan Hentz, which I thought was pretty darn awesome. Pia Timmer had 13 digs. You also had Merritt Beeson with 10 digs, and you had Marley Monserrat with 12 digs to go along with 46 assists. So all in all, this was a thriller of a match. Unfortunately for the Fury, it just did not bounce their way, but sometimes that just happens, and sometimes you just got to learn and grow from it. I don't think anyone expected the Fury to take the Vibe on the road to a 5th set, but I was just very impressed by the Fury in this match. I think they have room to grow, but I just think that this was not their match, and unfortunately the ball just did not bounce their way. Closing off Thursday's matches, we had the Orlando Valkyries taking down the San Diego Mojo on the road in 4 sets, which I think was kind of a little mini homecoming for some of the Orlando Valkyries. I think some of them were from San Diego, if not the Southern California area. Expand to more in Southern California, please, PVF. Anyway, the Valkyries were led by Adora Ane, who had 27 kills. Brittany Abercrombie added 12 kills. You also had 17 digs from Courtney Schwann, 15 digs from Georgia Murphy, 31 assists and 10 digs to Porpun Gudapard. Abercrombie added 12 digs, and then Ane added 10 digs. For the Mojo, they were led by Maya Tabron, who had 15 kills. Kendra Dalkey added 14 kills to go along with 18 digs. Pretty good, if you ask me. Marie Shara Venegas added 16 digs. Then Maya Tabron added 14 digs. So this was kind of expected from the Valkyries. The Valkyries was just such a strong team. They have a very good team on paper. There's a reason why they were chosen to finish second in the BVF, and it's kind of the reason why the Mojo were chosen to finish second to last. Now, this doesn't mean anything for the Mojo just yet. They just can't afford to have these losses stack up. And then Friday, we had the shocker of all shockers, the Vegas Thrill taking down the Omaha Supernovas at Lee's Family Forum in a reverse sweep. Omaha had match point at 24-23, but the Thrill routed off 3 straight points, took that 3rd set. Omaha eventually found themselves down 7, or I think they were down 8. They tried to get back into it with a little bit of a spark from their players off the bench, but the Thrill took that 4th set 25-17. Then in the 5th set, the Vegas Thrill routed off the first 7 points. They never looked back as they won the 5th set 15-11. This was such an amazing win for the Thrill. Now, we all got to remember that the Thrill had an amazing win against the Supernovas last year, and then the Supernovas kind of got their get back in terms of the thrill in the remainder of the matches. As Allison Mayfield had 18 kills and 10 digs, while Grace Loberg added 17 kills and 12 digs, and then Cameron Hanna added 16 kills and 12 digs. Alicia Glass-Childress added 56 assists and 18 digs, while the Supernovas, they were led by Brooke Nunaviller, who had 18 kills, while Reagan Cooper added 13 kills. Kind of interesting to not see a third double-digit kill leader for the Supernovas, as altogether they had 51 kills compared to the Thrill's 69. So I'm a little bit baffled by that. And also, the Valkyries were outdug 83-69 as well. So something was missing from that Vegas Thrill team. They just did not look like themselves. Anyway, the Saturday's match, we had the Indy Ignite pulling off a 5-set thriller against the Columbus Fury. The first two sets, Indy Ignite won it 25-18 and 32-30. Oh my God, if there was ever a set that the Fury wanted back, that was the set. They eventually kind of woke up, found their footing in the next two sets, but the Ignite had a little bit more of a spark in that fifth set, winning at 15-11. As the Ignite remained undefeated, as the Ignite were led by Lecator Member Benet, who had another legacy match. She had 29 kills to go along with 18 digs. You had Nina Cahick with 19 kills and 13 digs. You also had Kylie Murr with 25 digs as well. So, Sydney Hilly also had 54 assists and 15 digs. And don't look now, but the Indy Ignite, they're kind of the only undefeated team in the PVF. I'm just saying. Meanwhile, for the Columbus Fury, they were led by Raina Terry, who had 22 kills. It's a pretty good match for her, getting your first big matchup right there out of the way. You also had Kaylee Cox adding 16 kills, Jill Gillen adding 12 kills. Then in terms of the dig department, they were led by Kaylee Cox, who had 16 digs to go along with those 16 kills. Then they also had Wilma Rivera with 10 digs to go along with 51 assists, and so on and so forth. So, man, the Fury just had themselves an unlucky week last week. They had two 5-set matches where they probably could have won in probably 4, if not 5 altogether. But, man, got to feel for those Columbus Fury. Still early in the season, as unfortunately they're the only team without a win. But, again, still early in the season. There's no way this team goes winless. Ralph Khalees pops in the chat room. He says, "Good evening, Teran. I agree with Kale. Your show is kick-ass." Thank you, Ralph. He says, "I did follow some of the UCLA-Penn State matchup. I heard that match was on a professional level." Yeah, indeed it was. It was a high-level volleyball, and it was definitely fun. And then he says, "Is there professional volleyball?" Yes, there is professional volleyball. Professional women's volleyball. Professional men's volleyball, I mean, there is the AVL, the American Volleyball League. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, but the men's volleyball league doesn't really have too much. There was the NVA, but that's kind of on hold for the time being. I can't confirm that as a whole, but I digress. We're actually going to take ourselves one more commercial break. When we come back, we will finish up the recap of the PVF, and then we'll preview PVF's week 3. Then we'll recap and preview some some LOVB. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Sorry if I kind of had to cut to a commercial break. Just need to give my voice a little bit of a rest. As you can tell, probably my voice isn't 100%. I kind of did get a little sick in Austin as I'm trying to battle through this the rest of the way. I'm going to hopefully try to do – oh, there's the glitch. I had a feeling that it was coming. I should have taken one more commercial break, but – yeah, as you can tell, my voice isn't 100%, and I'm going to do my best to try to muscle through this week and whatnot, because I've got more volleyball content to put out, my rotation of the week, my NCAA men's volleyball matches to watch for. So everything might be behind a day just because of my circumstances with me not being 100%. And, you know, I'm still in my brother's apartment, so I digress. Anyway, moving on. Recap of PBF, we had the San Diego Mojo taking down the Omaha Supernovas in 4 sets, which I thought was kind of the big match of the day right here, in my opinion. I thought this was a very good win by the Mojo, just because if you remember, the Mojo made it all the way to the semifinals, only to get reverse swept by the Omaha Supernovas. And this was the same place where they got reverse swept, because remember, the semifinals and championship were held at CHI Health Center, which, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I just think that there should be neutral sites. I just think that if there's a home court advantage for one team, it's just not fair, unless it's like the number 1 seed. But I digress. Not trying to take anything away from Omaha. Anyway, but San Diego was led by Kendra Dahlke, who had 18 kills to go along with 12 digs. She was kind of the superstar of the batch, and she was actually the only player in double-digit kills, as Veronica Stone was the second player in line in terms of kill leaders. She had 9 kills. Janae Moore added 8 kills. Then Da-Young Lee, or Lee Da-Young, she had 46 assists to go along with 14 digs. Then Marie Shara Venegas, she had 17 digs. And then for the Supernovas, they were led by Brooke Neneviller, who had 22 kills. Allie Batenhorst added 12 kills. I think she started, if I recall correctly, but that was good for her that she started. But unfortunately, what wasn't good was that the Supernovas lost. Also, Natalia Valentin Anderson, She had a double-double, 44 assists to go along with 21 digs. Pretty darn good, if you ask me. Nunaville also added 11 digs. So my takeaway for this matchup is this. The Mojo, let's start with the Mojo first. The Mojo were pretty good, and they knew that this was – they needed to play with a chip on their shoulder just because, well, for starters, this was the team that ended their season. This was the team that ended their magical run, and they knew they wanted to get their get back against the Omaha Supernovas, and they did. So I thought the Mojo did a great job, and this is kind of the big thing I fear for the Mojo. Would they be able to beat the Supernovas on the road at CHA Health Center? And this is the Supernovas' first loss at home this season, so good for the Mojo for picking up that win. Now, for the Supernovas, look, I know in their press conference they said that the MLV news wasn't distracting them. I know the players kind of said that, but I kind of feel that wasn't the case. I feel that the MLV news is really kind of distracting them. I think this week needs to be thrown out, and they need to move on from this, and they need to just put this week behind them and put all the MLV news behind them as well. I honestly think that the noise might be distracting them, but I know the players said otherwise, but I honestly think that the Supernovas, with all this big news of moving to a new league, kind of caught them a little off guard. And then they were coming off of a devastating 5-set reverse sweep against the Thrill. So the Supernovas, I just think, had themselves a terrible week. This might be their worst week they've had in the Pro Volleyball Federation. And I don't even know if they've ever lost 3 in a row. I'd have to go back and check, but I digress. Anyway, speaking of rematches from the last year's semifinals, this was a stunner. The Grand Rapids Rise took down the Atlanta Vibe in straight sets, though all 3 sets were close. But the Rise were able to win all 3 of those sets and win at home, which I thought was pretty darn good. Carly Snyder and Erica Pritchard both led the way for the Rise with 10 kills each. They also got 8 kills from Marion Grote. They also got 7 kills from Naya Shime. And they got 10 digs and 33 assists from August Rayski. Now, for the Vibe, they were led by Leah Edmond, who had 10 kills. It was an off night for this offense, as their next kill leader was Pia Timmer, who had 6 kills. Merritt Beeson only had 4 kills, and she hit negatives. That's when you know it was a bad night for the Vibe. Now, for the Vibe, this is obviously a tough loss. But I think they're going to be fine going forward. It's still early in the season. But this is a big win for the Rise because it's actually their first win of the season. So if you had that on your bingo card, good for you. But I think this is it's a little early to say that the Rise will still be good. I think they're still in a little bit of a rebuild mode. I thought this was a good game for them, though. I thought this was a good match for them to win, to get their first win of the season. And the Vibe just didn't look like they were playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think the Vibe were a little – how do I say this? The Vibe were a little – they just left a lot of meat on the bone. And that's something you don't want to see from a team that is slated to finish first in the PVF preseason poll. But that's just my opinion in my regard. And then the last match to recap, the Vegas Thrill took down the Orlando Valkyries in a 5-set thriller. No pun intended. The Thrill were led by Hannah Maddox, who had 17 kills, as well as Allison Mayfield. She had 17 kills. Berkeley Oblad added 10 kills. Tegan DeFalco was the libero. She had 24 digs. She's actually a beach volleyball player. She was actually a beach volleyball player, and then she's now transitioned back into indoor, which I think is pretty awesome. Alicia Glass-Childress added 55 assists to go along with 9 digs. This was a very good win, in my opinion, for the Thrill. This was the battle of the team that was slated to finish at the bottom of, or actually the 6th in the league, team that was slated to finish 6th in the league versus the team that was slated to finish 2nd in the league. And the Thrill, all 3 of their wins were 5-setters. The moral of the story, do not challenge the Thrill. Do not go up 2-0, unless you're the Atlanta Vibe. Anyway, the Valkyries, I thought they left a little meat on the bone. I thought that second set was kind of the turning point because it gave the Vegas Thrill life, even though they only won it by 2, and even though they got thumped in that third set. the Thrill knew they had a chance because you need to win 3 sets. Not 2, not 1, 3. Anyway, for the Valkyries, they were led by Brittany Abercrombie, who had 30 kills and 11 digs. Everyone calls her Brittany Abercrombie. I call her Brittany Ab-her-crombie. I know that pun was used already, but I digress. Adora Ane added 14 kills. In terms of digs, George Murphy added 10 digs. Ane added 18 digs to go along with those 14 kills. And I will just say for the Valkyries, your defense wasn't all that was cracked up to be when your libero had only 10 digs and you only had 8 blocks on the night, and you got outdug 74-64 in terms of digs. So the Valkyries still have a little bit to learn. I still think that they're as good as advertised, but I will say I hope they don't get too big for their britches in terms of the finish of that they were projected to finish in terms of the PVF, but I digress. All right, that's that for the Week 2 recap of the PVF. Now for the Week 3 preview. So Thursday, we've got the Vegas Thrill at the Atlanta Vibe. All right, I'm just going to skim through these very quick. I want to see the Thrill win on the road. They have not played a road game all season. That's going to change when they face the Atlanta Vibe. I want to see them actually get their lick back against the Vibe. And I want to see what the Vibe can do against a semi-red-hot Vegas Thrill team that has won 2 straight matches. And I want to see how the Vibe respond after they lost to the Grand Rapids Rise. Then on Friday, we have a doubleheader. We've got the Omaha Supernovas taking on the Columbus Fury. Look, if the Supernovas lose this one, I know it's any given week, but you can't lose this one. If you lose this one, it's early in the season to say this, but there might be some problems lurking ahead for the Supernovas. And the scary thing about this for the Supernovas is the Fury, they're the only team without a league in terms of the PVF. And they're playing at home. So they know they have kind of a lot to play for. And the Supernovas are on a 2-game skid. The Fury really want to get in the win column because nothing is worse than being the lone team without a win in your league. And then also on Friday, we have the Indy Ignite heading down to Viejas Arena to take on the San Diego Mojo. All right, this one's going to be an interesting matchup. The Ignite are playing good. They're the only team that's undefeated in the PVF. But let's see how they fare against the Mojo coming off of a big win over the Omaha Supernovas. I want to see the Indy Ignite play with that same fire they've had in their first 3 matches. I want to see them actually continue their winning ways. And I also want to see if the Mojo can actually build off their win over Omaha, and it wasn't just Omaha just being having a meh week because of a lot of turmoil on and off the court. And on Sunday, it's a pretty light week in the PVF this week. So Sunday, we have 2 matches, Grand Rapids Rise versus the Columbus Fury. I don't really want to say this in a disrespectful fashion, but this is kind of the battle of the bottom. This is kind of the 2 teams I don't really have too much upside for. I really want to see the Fury, for my girl Jen B's sake, pick up a win. So let's see what happens with the Fury and how they can try to pick up a win against the Grand Rapids Rise. Columbus is at home, so I want to see if they can actually get a win. If they don't get the win over the Supernovas. And then also on Sunday to close off the week, we have the Vegas Thrill at the Orlando Valkyries. Again, this is kind of a get-back game for the Valkyries. I wouldn't say they got pantsed, but they let that match against the Thrill slip through their fingers. I think the Valkyries could have won that one, but there's no such thing as should have, would have, could have in this league. So for the Valkyries, they got to be better. It just can't be the Brittany Abercrombie show. They got to get all their other players involved offensively. And then for the Thrill, this is a big week for them. They're facing the team that was projected to finish first and second in the PVF regular season standings. So I want to see the Thrill get tested. I want to see them out of their comfort zone. And I want to see them actually do something big in terms of picking up a road win. If there's ever a week for the Thrill to really prove themselves, this is the week. And they really have to show us that the Thrill are for real and they're not just a home team that is just only good to playing at home. All right, but that is that for the PVF for Week 3 preview. Now let's jump on over to LOVB. All right, so LOVB, I'm just going to say this straight up. Again, with all these new leagues happening, it's going to be very tough and to like keep track of everything happening in LOVB. So currently right now, the LOVB Omaha is in first place. They are 2-0. Then you've got LOVB Houston at 2-1, LOVB Atlanta at 1-1, LOVB Austin at 1-2, along with LOVB Madison. And then LOVB Salt Lake is 1-2. So something I will say that someone brought up on X, these back-to-back matches are super brutal. And I could not agree more, just because I feel that's if you're having back-to-back matches, that does not do the athletes a favor. It doesn't do anyone a favor. And I think it's just not doing the league any justice. You got to spread things out in terms of like certain matches, in terms of like certain matches playing on certain days. So please, LOVB, PVF, try to spread out these teams and make sure they're not playing back-to-back matches, just because travel is brutal for some of these teams. Anyway, so the only real match, okay, it looks like the Week 2 match we had was the LOVB Atlanta taking on, no, this isn't right. Yeah, this whole LOVB website is a little confusing if you ask me, but the big thing that I'm not too surprised with is LOVB Omaha being in first place. Long story short, I'm just going to say this right now. This is kind of what I expected. This is what I expected from an Omaha team. This isn't me trying to be nitpicky. This is Omaha having like probably one of the better teams in the league. I think this is a team that is going to be mowing down a lot of teams, in my opinion. I think this team is very good. The talent on this team is amazing. The fact that they have such a strong fan base and the fact that they have a strong showing in terms of their home games is also amazing as well. So that's something that really scares me when it comes to Omaha. Like, my only fear for Omaha is when will they have their dud week or clunker week where they just put up a goose egg against somebody. But for now, it's still early. We're only 2 weeks into this thing. So Week 2, we had LOVB Houston reverse sweeping LOVB Austin. Oh, no, this is still Week 1. Week 2, we had LOVB Atlanta taking down LOVB Austin at the HEB Center at Cedar Park in four sets, which I thought was pretty darn cool if you ask me. So a great win for Atlanta. This was on Wednesday. And then for Friday, we had LOVB Madison taking down Salt Lake in 5 sets, which was played at the Wisconsin Fieldhouse. Great win for LOVB Madison. This was definitely a thriller of a match, just because Madison obviously did not have their first win, and they have a lot of talent on their team, and they were able to pick up said win against Salt Lake. And eventually Madison was going to need a breakthrough anyway, because they did not want to be that lone team without a win in LOVB. Then Saturday, this was the weekend with LOVB, which unfortunately doesn't do the First Point Collegiate Challenge any justice. But Saturday at the Wisconsin Fieldhouse, we had LOVB Houston taking down LOVB Salt Lake in 4 sets. Long story short, this is what back-to-backs do for you. I get it. They were in the same place. I get it that Salt Lake didn't have to travel. What I don't get is that why do you have to have teams playing back-to-backs? It just does not do them any favors. Same thing with Madison. They lost their matchup to Omaha in 4 sets. And again, this was no surprise. Omaha is just very talented, and Madison is coming off of a 5-set win where you can get too high on that win and you're just not rested 100%. So I'm not trying to make excuses for these teams, but Omaha is just a legit juggernaut while Madison is still trying to figure things out. But again, this whole league has its ups and downs and its perks and perks and cons, and perks and drawbacks. That's the word. Anyway, so that is that for the LOVB week 2. Now let's jump to LOVB week 3, and then I'll send you all on your way. So week 3 begins with Houston heading down to Bruin Arena to take on Salt Lake. So according to the standings, Salt Lake is a whopping 1-2, while Houston is also 1-1. No, they're not. They're 2-1. So yeah, so it's such a logjam. I mean, it's still early, but this is Salt Lake's first home match of the season. So if I'm Salt Lake, I'm playing with fire in my belly, and I'm playing with a chip on my shoulder to prove that they should be one of the more talented teams out there. Next up on Friday, another weekend with LOVB. I guess they call it that just because, well, this is actually pretty cool. So all these matches are going to be played at Liberty First Credit Union Arena in Omaha. So okay, this is kind of cool. They got a weekend with LOVB, which they pick one certain place to play at, and then all the teams that are in it get to play at that said one place, and they don't have to travel. I guess that's kind of cool. But back-to-backs are kind of pushing it. Anyway, but week 3 of Weekend with LOVB has the Omaha Supernovas hosting the LOVB, or why did I say Omaha Supernovas? LOVB Madison hosting LOVB Omaha hosting LOVB Madison. So it's a rematch between both these teams from last week. Look, I imagine we're going to be seeing a big amount of Omaha fans. So Madison better be prepared for the worst, and they better be prepared to try to take down this talented Omaha team because they've got a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side. So this one could be an uphill climb for Madison, but we shall see. They've got the familiarity against Omaha. Then on Saturday we have LOVB Madison playing Atlanta. Oh gosh. That's not even 24 hours of rest. Madison continues to get the short end of the stick. I'm sorry, but this is just crazy if you ask me. So I feel bad for Madison, but sometimes you got to play the hand that you're dealt. And then closing off the weekend with LOVB in week 3, we have Omaha hosting Austin. All right, that one's going to be a little bit of a fun matchup just because Austin needs to get themselves back in the win column while Omaha has their home court to defend. The good thing for Austin, Madison, Salt Lake, and Atlanta, they all have one win, is that it's still very early in the season, and teams are still trying to figure themselves out and figure who and what their identity is. So I think we all need to just slow and pump the brakes when it comes to all these teams and how they somehow lose and somehow win and whatnot. So I think we all just need to take a breath and just wait until maybe week 6. Yeah, week 6, the LOVB Classic, which will be played in Kansas City, Municipal Arena, the site of the 2025 NCAA Women's Volleyball Semifinals and National Championship. So, yeah. I think if I had to give advice to the new LOVB fans, I would say wait until week 6 to try to share your hot takes and whatnot. But that will pretty much do it for the LOVB Week 3 preview. I know it was kind of the Diet Coke version, but there's just lots of volleyball to discuss, and I don't want to go over an hour and 30 minutes, and we're already over 80 minutes as we speak. But that's going to pretty much do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope to be fully better by next week. I pray to all that is holy, knock on wood. I will be back on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, and I will be back for Tuesday and Wednesday for some volleyball content to the best of my ability. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action, and I will see you on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show and all the content that I have going on in the week. Have a great week, everybody. Peace!